Peace and blessings. Namaste. To all light warriors and workers and everything in between. It is I, Sophie, today, and this transmission, I'm in a good mood. It's a beautiful day outside, and I was just coming back from running errands. This transmission is about being set up by God, okay? And I'm saying, help. I know I'm being set up, all right? And for those of you who have that intimate type of relationship with the divine, you know exactly what he's trying to do and when he's trying to do it. Okay, so I'm going to get into what just happened to me. Okay, but before I do that, I'm going to tell you the dream that I had prior to this so that you can see how certain things start aligning. All right, I had been talking maybe about 3 years ago, and I was talking to my husband at the time, and I kept saying to him, I'm going into all of this new knowledge, but what if it's 360 degrees? Okay. And we had the discussion to how 360 degrees doesn't necessarily have to be a circle, but it could also be a spiral of upwards momentum. Okay. So what I'm basically saying about the 360 degrees of knowledge is that there's concept that you may have read in the past. And as you start to evolve, when you go back and revisit it, it speaks something different. And as you start to revolve, when you go back to revisit again, it speaks something different. So we're elevating, in grades, okay? Elementary schools, not the same as middle schools, not the same as high schools, not the same as college, okay? So what I'm saying is, we start to evolve in a spiral going upwards, but we always tend to revisit back something from the past with a higher level of understanding. Stay with me. So some years ago, maybe about 2014, I had this very important vision, okay? And it's only till today that I'm understanding truly what this vision was representing. What happened was, in this vision, I had left the house. I was hungry, like starving, like famished. Like I did not have sandwiches, I had no food. I was hungry. And when I walked outside, I saw a church out there, and this church was humongous. It was the size of a city. Okay, this was the biggest church that I've ever seen. And as a matter of fact, you couldn't even see the roof or the top of this church because it went all the way up into the heavens. All right, it had huge pillars, all of that stuff. And what I was seeing was that there was masses and masses of people, and they were going to this church, all right, and they were coming out with plates of food. And I was like, okay, that's the ticket right there. I'm going to go there so that I can get something to eat, all right? So I'm walking towards this church, and the church is actually gold, like it looks golden. All right. And as I start to walk up the steps, I'm realizing that in order to gain access to this church, you have to go through these turnstiles. And there are people that are standing by these turnstiles, almost kind of like a stadium. All right. So I go up to one of the turnstiles, and there's a woman standing there, and I say to her, excuse me, ma'am, can I get inside? I'm very hungry. I haven't eaten, and I would like to get inside. And she goes, sure, let me have your ticket. I didn't have a ticket. Okay. So I told her, I said, I don't have a ticket. I don't have any money. Okay. I don't have anything. And she goes, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Maybe come back a little later or something like that. If we have leftovers, we'll share. She was saying something like that apologetically. And I put my head down and I went to walk away. When I went to walk away, a being showed up. Okay. A male being. And I couldn't see his face. Okay. Couldn't tell you what he looked like. I knew he was a male because of his voice, okay? But he had on like a robe, like a monk type of robe. And it had a long cowl, like the cowl that covers, when it covers your head and only your eyes, like you can't see, you can only see the nose and the mouth, and it covers down, the eyes. And that's how he was walking to me. And he grabbed my hand very sternly. And he showed my hand to the woman that was behind the turnstiles. Okay. And when I looked down, I realized I was wearing a rock this big. Like when I say a rock, I mean, it looked like something that a queen would wear. This was the biggest stone, like the biggest stone that I've ever seen. Like this person had to be wealthy, to afford something like this. And it was sitting up like this big, okay, on this finger. And he shows it to her, and she goes, oh, I am so sorry. Come on in. And I'm walking in, and I'm with this man who I can't see. All right. Now, the first thing that I noticed when I walked in this church, I went to the left. That's where the music was playing. And it was a band that was actually playing on the stage. And there was all of these people in the pews, and it was supposed to be gospel music, but the way everybody was reacting, it sounded like a concert. So people was like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And the band was playing, and then you had other people that was falling out all over the ground. And I looked at them and I was like, that's interesting. You know what I mean? Because, and not judging it, not judging it. It wasn't my cup of tea, because in reality, when it comes down to my spirituality or my relationship with the divine, is very serious. Okay, which is completely different of my regular personality. My regular personality is not that serious, but my spiritual personality is very serious, right? So I'm looking at these people and I'm going, like what is happening? This church, this looks like a concert, like a rock concert. So I'm walking to the back. I'm like, okay, we're not going to pay that attention anymore because I'm still hungry. My stomach is growling. There's a long table up there with a white cloth on it, and there's people all around it, and they got their faces in their plates, and they're eating and eating and eating and eating. And so I go and get my plate because I'm ready to eat now. I get my plate, and I go and I sit down. Now, this being who gave me the ring was sitting at the head of the table, okay? And I'm sitting cat-a-corner to him. Like if I'm sitting right here, he's sitting this way. Okay, so we're facing each other, but we're not directly in face. We're adjacent. Let's put it that way. Okay. So I looked down at my plate, and all it was fat. It was grizzled. It looked like pig feet. It was slimy. It was disgusting. And I looked around at everybody, and they were eating it, eating it, eating it, eating it, eating it. And so, as hungry as I was, I couldn't eat it. And I pushed the plate back, and the being said, "What's wrong? You don't like the food?" And just started laughing. Okay? Now, for the life of me, I never could figure out the temperament of this being. Like, he felt like a neutral energy. You know what I mean? But the way he laughed, I couldn't tell if he was laughing like, do you see what I see? Do you see what the problem is now? Or if he was laughing like, yeah, look what I created. Do you see what I'm saying? I couldn't tell, at that time. But what I did know is I couldn't eat the food. And I ended up leaving that place hungry, the same way that I came, because it was disgusting. All right. Now, we're going to fast forward here. So I've been going through different levels of spirituality, different levels of metaphysics, different levels of esoteric wisdom, different levels of religion, okay? And I've been going through this my entire life because I had vowed I'm not going back to those churches. Those churches have been damaging to our people in more ways than one, okay? And I'll get into a lot of this, all right? But I'm telling you how I'm being set up. So, I vowed I wasn't going to step back in the church, period. Okay, that if I was going to start something, it would be a school. I felt like the churches were operating under more of an emotional type of deal that caused people to become dependent on the church as opposed to really doing the work so that they do not have to be dependent on the church. I feel like leaders want followers as opposed to developing more leaders, and I've just never been that way. You know what I'm saying? So I don't like people dependent on me, and I don't want them to be dependent on me, and I didn't think that it was right that people were becoming dependent on the church, and they needed the church to actually do the work as opposed to doing it inwardly. So I vowed I'd never go back. All right. Now, as I'm running my errands today, something tells me I want to stop back at that church. Remember I did that video of the church and I was showing you, how they had, how you could feed the homeless, how they had all of these rooms, how people could sleep in it, and all of that stuff that I was excited about, right? So I decide that I'm going to sneak in this church again. They still leave that one side door open, right? And this time I bring with me my tripod because I'm going to do a documentary about the church. This is what I'm thinking. I'm sneaking this church. I say my little prayer to the divine. Please protect me so I don't go to jail for trespassing. And if I do go to jail for trespassing, please, Lord God, make sure I got the money to bail myself out. And then I'm going to go in here and do this trespassing thing. I get to the church and guess who's there? The pastor. All right, here we go. Here we go. So I get out and I see him and he's standing like right by his vehicle, and I say, excuse me. And he turns around and he's like, yes. And I said, are you the pastor of this church? And he says this side of it, but not the other side. The side that I was looking at was still open, but he did rent out one half of it. All right. So I'm telling him, what my vision is, what it is that I'm trying to do. And he finally gives me the number or the contact of the person that owns the building. All right. Because I've been trying to find it for a while and it's not on the signs or anything. So he gives me this person's actual name and information. I say, thank you, nod, shake hands, and then I go to walk away. Now, as I'm walking down the street, okay, across the street is another gentleman that is sitting out there and he's yelling for me, hey, 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 hey. And I'm going, here we go. And I said, hi, how are you? How are you doing? And he's like, come here for a second. So I walk over there and he's like, we're giving out plates today. And I said, you're giving out plates for what? And he's like, well, our church is down the street and, we renting out this building and we're giving back to the community. We're giving out plates. And I said, to the homeless? And I'm looking around because I don't see any homeless people. He's like, to anybody. And I'm like, well, where's the people? Okay, because the only people that was in here was the church folks. So I said, okay, I'll come on in, So I come in, I introduce myself to him, and then I'm talking to the people like, what are y'all doing here? Do y'all rent the space out? Blah, blah, blah. I tell them who I am, and then their pastor comes forward, okay? He wants to talk to me. So I'm standing in front of this pastor, and I'm telling him what the vision was in the church. And he said, that's interesting because I was looking at the exact same church not too long ago. And I said, really? So I told him what I found out with the church, like, how it could feed the homeless, how you could house the homeless, like how it could become a hospice, how it could become a classroom. Like there were so many things that could, if you have the vision to do it, that church can turn into. And he's like, really, 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 right? And I'm like, yeah, okay. So he invites me, to come to his church. I show him my credentials and stuff like that. And he invites me to come to his church and, and then the first lady comes out and she wants me to come and this, that, and the third. And I'm saying to myself, heck no. Heck no. Y'all got that. And I can already tell by their demeanor that they were going to be all rigid and weird. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it was nice. It was a nice exchange. I like meeting people. I like networking. All right. So as I'm walking, and I got these business cards from that pastor and the other pastor there. And I'm walking and I'm thinking to myself, I'm about to be set up. I'm about to be set up. And then I remembered in 2019, God said he wanted me back in the pulpits. Okay? I said, because if I get back in the pulpits, you're not going to have a church. People are not going to like it, right? People are not going to like it. So I came through here. When I got here, I said, I feel like I'm being set up. I said, I feel like I'm being set up. Why am I running into two pastors, at the exact same location, two pastors, they're both inviting me. They're both interested. They both gave me numbers and this, that, and the third. And so I come and I tap into the divine and I say, am I being set up? And God said, yes, you are. It's time. Okay. So I said to the divine, I said, well, let me explain something. I said, do you think the world is really ready for the truth? Do you think the church is ready for the truth? Do you think the church is ready for the esoteric wisdom? Do you think the church is ready for the Gnosticism, for all of this thing? And God said, yes. Okay. Remember, I did a video not too long ago saying that we came to resurrect the dead. All right. So what I'm saying to you is some of y'all, and you might not like what I'm getting ready to say, but some of y'all are getting ready to be called right back to the place of origin in which it started. And the reason why you're going to be called back to the place of origin of this church is because you have now got to revamp, recharge, and resurrect it. Okay. And you're doing this as a servant unto the Most High. Okay. You're not going to go into these churches to sit around and do the same thing that the churches were doing. Okay. Some of y'all are going to be called to go and step in front of masses of people and have to tell the truth. Okay. And you better be bold and strong, when it comes down to it, you know? So I'm sitting here, I'm laughing. I'm laughing because I know how God operates in my life. And I can always tell when I'm getting ready to be set up by something, okay? When it comes down to synchronicities and all that stuff, it will align, all right? So I know now that in some point of my travels and in my career, I am still going to end up in somebody's church, probably my own. Okay, either traveling, speaking at churches, or probably having one. Do you understand? Because he said it is time, okay, that there are people out here who are really, really hungry about the truth, okay? And they're reaching and grasping for straws. People are trying to find themselves because what is the reality here? Let's be honest, okay? Everybody asks the very same question over and over again. And what is that one question? What is the meaning of life? Or what is my purpose? Okay? So everybody wants to know this. And so they start grasping at different concepts and different things because they want to know what their place is. And I think it's a beautiful thing, but they have to be ready to actually hear the truth. All right? And my concern about with even coming out, even with the YouTube channel, was are people really ready to hear and understand some deep and heavy concepts that might just go completely over their head? But the divine said, my people are ready. Now, for those of you who are still focusing on, what's going to happen on the 3D earth and this, that, and the third, you might be placed there for a reason, okay? So if you're not in alignment with building the new earth, if you're in alignment with still discovering what's going to go on with the old earth, you might be one of the ones, okay, that is still trying to help or pulling people out the water, all right? And God may have placed you there for a reason. But for the rest of us, okay, or for some of us who are focusing on the new reality, okay, get ready. You're getting ready to be called on. And it's no joke. You're getting ready to be called on because these pastors, these preachers, these churches, they need a completely different overhaul. Okay? I know this personally because I was born, raised in church, and not just one denomination, all of them. So I was able to see the amount of damage that was being done. Okay, the codependency between the people and the pastors and the preachers. All right, because in reality, how the churches were run was they were trying to make sure that you kept coming back. Why? Because of the tithes, because of the offerings, because pastor need a new car, because pastor need a new house. Do you understand that? All right, so it was based off of dependency. All right, they gave you enough of a feel-good speech to keep you excited and motivated. But when you got home, it didn't change your situation, did it? Because they're not teaching you how to better yourself. They're teaching you how to be dependent on them. If you come to me about a counseling, okay, or an issue that you're having, and I take my time out to counsel you, to pray with you, or to heal you, I don't expect you to return to me the next Sunday with that same issue. If that's the case, then there is a problem. All right. Do you understand? If you're going to come back to me, it needs to be a brand new issue. Don't come back to me with the same issue because now I know you're not doing the work. All right. But the churches were operating like that. All right. They were operating like that. And the meat was not good. It was spoiled. It was fatty. Okay. Spoiled, fatty, gristle. Nothing worth of value and substance. And that being that showed me that, he was teaching me, okay? What I'm realizing now, that ring, that rock that was given to me, what that symbolized was I was given access. I have access now. I have access to all the religious systems, the occult wisdom, the knowledge, the astral realms, all of that. So I'm learning that was symbolic of the fact that I was given access to everything, okay? I was given access to see behind the veil. So I'm like, oh, wow. Well, of course, I just figured that out maybe about, 20, 30 minutes ago. But at the same time, as I learn, I'm going to share. This is my authentic truth, and I'm in this journey with everybody. And even though, people may think, oh, Sophie knows everything. No, I'm still learning, so sometimes I have to go back and correct myself. I'm still learning myself, right? So I'm being set up. And I know I'm being set up because it's 360 degrees. Okay, so this means now that if I was to get back into the church, okay, if I'm going to get back into the pulpits, I have to come with a higher level of understanding. And I'm here to resurrect the dead. All right. And you are here to resurrect the dead. Now, to some of you, it might not be a church. Okay. So some of you, it might be a temple. Okay. For some of you, it might be a meditation court. I don't care what it is, but I'm telling you, you're getting ready to be called to a higher level. Okay. And because the divine makes changes through his servants. Like, he's not going to come down here by himself and say, let me rearrange all of this and this, that, and the third. No, he uses his servants to bring about the change and the order and stuff like that that needs to be done. Okay. And as a divine feminine, I am partnered with the divine masculine. Do you understand? So where he goes, I go. All right. That's just the reality of it. Okay. Because this is my contract here. Okay. Where he goes, I go. All right. And wherever he sends me is typically a problem, or it needs to be a correction. And this is one of the reasons why I move so much. Okay. I can't really seem to get stable. I might be in a state for 3 years. The 4th year, I'm in a completely different state doing work there until that mission is complete. And then I'm somewhere else. Okay. So I'm being set up right now. I'm being set up. Now, what is the problem really with the churches? All right. I can give you a few of them. I'm going to give you a personal one, actually. And it's not about me. All right. Divine feminines. All right. You came down here with the power. You came here with the wisdom. Okay. Our divine masculines, they have the knowledge. They have the logical, the scientific mind. And this is your counterbalance, right? He's logical. He's scientific. He's mathematical and this, that, and the third. And you're like, oh, and God said, and God said, and God said, and God said. And he's like, shut up. Right? That's what he wants to say to you, right? But he doesn't say it. I'm sorry. So anyway, I was dating a gentleman when I lived in Raleigh, North Carolina. I liked this guy a whole lot. Okay, I liked him a whole lot. I thought he was sexy. I thought he was cute. He had, he worked out all the time. He had this nice body. He was just a nice looking man. Okay, and he had these pretty brown eyes. He was just a nice looking man. He was a nice looking man. And this man, okay, has all of these women. He had all of these women. Now, he would say to me that these were just friends. And I've started to realize, yeah, he might be telling the truth, because there was something about his demeanor that was a little bit effeminate. Like, he was in touch with his femininity, okay? But it was a little excessive to me. It was a little excessive to the point where I knew that I had to go and deeply penetrate, like, what's happening here. Okay. Now, this was during the time that I was preaching myself. Okay. This was a time where I was part of my AME church, and I had my Sundays to teach, and I was doing my Sunday school, and I wanted this gentleman to come along with me in my spiritual journey. And I realized he hated the church. Oh, I did not know how much he hated the church. Okay. And he would sit down to me, we had started dating, and then one thing led to another. And then some kind of way, we were talking marriage, like we had the engagement and all of that stuff. Okay. But I didn't realize how much he hated the church. And I was so very, very active in it. Okay. So here it is, this opposite thing that's going on. And I do say opposites can attract sometimes. And yeah, it can sometimes. So we have this opposite going on. It's like, which one of us is going to win? Okay. So I'm bringing him to church. He's sitting in the back with his arm crossed, probably on his phone, and do this, that, that. He ain't thinking, he's not stunting God or anything about God, period. Okay. As I'm starting to talk to him, I'm trying to figure out what is going on, with him. I'm like, what's going on? My pastor at the time had already accused me of having a problem with the church. I remember him telling me that. Isabella, do you have a problem with the church? I think you have a problem with the church. And I'm like, yeah, I do. Okay, but you'll find that out a lot later. So what happened was I couldn't get him to go with me. I would go at, Sundays and this, that, and the third. And sometimes I would be performing, sometimes I would be singing, and I just wanted my man to support me. He wouldn't go because the game was on, so if he had a choice between church and football, you can forget about it. When I came home, that man was in football. All right. So we end up having this conversation. He's like, it doesn't move me. It doesn't do anything for me. All right. I knew he needed a lot of healing, though. So I'm like, how can I convince this man? So I thought, okay, maybe it was the church that I was going to. It was very structured, very orthodox, very, and we're going to process here, and we're going to, all things are blessings, well, that type of thing, right? But there was a church that was around the corner that I used to go to, sneak around every now and then, that was a little bit more upbeat. That's where the prophetic ministry was. That's where the deliverance ministry was. That's where you got to see some action. That's when you got to see some spirits being cast out. That's when you got, so that was the church to go to. But I was going to the church that I was in, which was a lot smaller and a lot methodical because of the pastor that was there. And I saw that pastor struggling with his congregation and trying to wake them up. And he was such a powerhouse. And I said, he needs help. I'm going to help him. Okay. So I gave up the big, fun church in favor of the little church because of the man that was there. And because I saw that man's spirit. All right. And I said, he needs help. Okay. Now, what I didn't know was prior to me showing up and Reverend Francis showing up, is that he had been receiving he received a prophecy because he had been complaining to another person, another reverend, about how dead his church was. And the church, that reverend gave him a prophecy and said, your church is not going to wake up until the prophet and the evangelist comes. All right. So here it is. Me and a reverend comes in within 2 weeks of each other. I'm looking at this pastor and I'm like, how can I help you? What do you need help with? Because I'm looking at his congregation. How can I help you? Bam. All right, fine. We go into ministry, this, that, and the third. I'm partnered. It's us three. Okay. Me, that pastor, Reverend Francis. All right. We run the church. That's just what it is. Now, excuse me. So I'm trying to sneak away so that I can bring the man in my life to something that I think is going to be a lot more fun for him. Okay. Since what I was doing was so serious and cut and dry and dotting T's and crossing I's, let's bring him to something where it's going to be more fun, because it doesn't matter to me. I typically go where I'm needed, not where I want. All right. So, so I would sneak off and go to this church. I bring him there. We're in this circle and we're getting ready to pray, and I'm holding his hand, and here comes this prophetic team, like this group of prophetic teams that like to speak over people. I'm holding his hand and they come over to pray on us. And she asks, what do you need prayer with? And I look at my husband, at that time. And I said, I don't know, pray over us. I said, pray over us as a couple, please. So she and another gentleman, they come over, they lay hands on us and they start to pray. And then he pulls his hand back. Okay. And this woman looks at my husband and she says, I'll never forget this because it really shut him down. She looked at my husband and she said, it's by grace that you're married to her, because you were not meant to be her husband. She has somebody else. Okay. So you need to be good to her because she's way ahead of you. Right now, that was the wrong thing to say. Okay. So when she started saying that to him, I felt my heart and my stomach sinking, because I'm like, I'm trying to get this man into this, and now you just completely chopped his ego. And she was so matter of fact, and she was like, this is not your wife, but it's by grace, okay, that you're still with her, but you're not supposed to be with her, and you have a long way to catch up with her. And I'm like, oh my God. So that was the end. He never went back to church again. Okay. He felt judged. Okay. He felt like people didn't know him. Okay? It made him feel insecure. It made him feel inferior. And so who's got to fix this, right? We do, divine feminine. So I'm home and I got to speak life into this man. Now his whole demeanor is shut down. And I'm sitting there going, okay, no, she didn't mean that. Okay, I'm learning too. Don't look at it that way. I could take you with me. How can I help you? How can I help you? You know, and then finally he tells me the reason why he can't stand the church is because when he was 10 years old, a bishop molested him. Now I'm understanding where the effeminate nature is coming from. Okay? Now I understand where the anger is coming from. Now I understand where the frustration is coming from. And I cannot imagine how that would feel as a man. Okay? Now, women, we have been through all types of molestations, but men have too. And a lot of them don't talk about it. They don't talk about it. And it messes them up. Okay? Messes up the sacral chakra. Okay? I was wondering why he was so highly sexed. Now, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed it. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't a problem. Okay? In that type of union. But at the same time, I still got to sit back and go, what is this issue? So he tells me. And he tells me that this was his family's church. Okay? And that this bishop was a friend of the family. All right? And that when he was 10 years old, this bishop would take him to the back and molest him. Okay? Divine feminines. As tough as we are, as tough as I am, nothing destroys me more than seeing a man break down. And I guess it's because we're taught to look at them as this pillar of strength, as if they don't have emotions, as if, you know, whatever goes on with them, they should just get over it and bounce back. But no, they deal with trauma too. Okay? So I'm looking at my husband, I'm getting angry. Now, I'm not angry at him. I'm not angry at him. I'm angry about the situation and what it did to him psychologically. Okay? Why he's angry. Why he's mad at the church. Why he's saying God don't exist. Because in his mind, he said to me, and he looked me in my face, if God was real, why did this happen to me? Do you understand? People can blame the divine for things that he has nothing to do with. It's not the church. It's the people. It's not the church. It's the teachings. It's not God. That's the problem. Okay? So as he's telling me this, tears is running down my face. Okay? I'm holding his hands. Tears is running down my face. And I'm like, okay, this makes sense now. I understand. I asked him, I said, well, where is he? He said that he was in jail and he just got out of jail, maybe about 2 years ago. Nobody knew what he was in jail for. I did. I knew what he was in jail for. And I think deep down, this man knew what he was in jail for too. Okay? But the problem was he was right back in that church. Oh, no. So I look at my husband at that time. It's not the same one. But I looked at my husband and I said, you need to heal. I said, are you ready to confront? I said, what do you want to do? Do you want to heal? Do you want to confront? And he said, let's confront. So I'm like, that's right up my alley, baby. Okay, so we go. I get dressed, get some gas in the car. We had an hour and a half away to his hometown because he said that bishop was still there. And I'm going to tell you, judgment comes with the church first. And I am a nightmare. Okay? I will tell you that. I am a nightmare to a false prophet. I am a nightmare to a false pastor. I am a nightmare to a hypocrite. All right? So we're in the car. I'm thinking of all the things that I'm going to say. Okay? And I'm looking over at my husband. He seems to be fine. And I'm like, okay. I said, we got to get him out this church. Okay, we need to confront him, because if he's still allowed to be here, why hasn't he been sitting down? You know, what happened to him in jail? I want to know who he is. And I want to make sure that he never touches another child again, right? So we're driving there. It's about an hour and a half. I'm listening to music and my countenance changed. You know, I'm in the car and I'm like, ooh, 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 ooh. You know, got the gun in the trunk just in case something pop off. All right. So now when we get there, we pull up to the church. I go to turn off the key. I look at my husband. He was frozen. He was frozen. Frozen in the passenger seat. And I knew when I looked at him and I saw him frozen, he wasn't ready. So I looked at him and I said, okay, we don't have to do this now. You want to go get something to eat? And then we went to go get something to eat. That marriage failed miserably. We could not see eye to eye on anything. And the problem was, I was patient, or trying to be patient with the process. I stopped asking him to go to church with me. He'll grow in his own time. The psychological damage that was done every time I spoke life to a situation, or said a scripture, or referred to God, or prayer, or meditation, or anything like that, I reminded him of what happened to him. And see, Divine Feminine, this is your struggle here too. We're multitasking, okay? We're resurrecting the dead. We're healing the Divine Masculine. We're teaching concepts. We're creating generational wealth. We're balancing our spirituality. And this is a huge weight on you. All right? But I'm telling you the story now because many of you who've experienced some of the things that I've experienced, and you know what type of taste it leaves in your mouth in this church, sadly, some of you are getting ready to go right back to it. So be prepared, okay? And not only are you getting ready to be called right back into that power teaching, that power preaching, but you're going to be doing it with whole different concepts, and you've got to be strong enough to deal with the scrutiny. Do you understand? Because most of the things that are taught in the church, they don't know half the stuff that you know. All right? I told you the Bible is a children's book. It's the starter book, right? But as we evolve, we seek, and ye shall find. And so more things start to come in. And so now when you go back and read the Bible, you read it totally different. You know what Elohim is talking, who's pretending to be God, okay? Who's the real God, who the prophets were, if they were prophets of Baal versus prophets of Yahweh versus prophets of Jehovah. You know, you'll start to see that in your Bible, okay? Don't be so bitter by what the church has done to you that it makes you throw away the baby with the bathwater. You're going to have to go back and read it again. And now you're going to see. You're going to see where everything went wrong. You're going to see where the mistakes were made. You're going to see those things. And now you're being called to teach it. And honey, it's not going to be easy. So I am telling you, put on your spiritual armor. Pull your power. Yeah. And you're going to get ready to speak something that is going to revolutionize this world. And the only reason why you're being called to do it is because you're strong enough to. Okay? Yes, Divine Feminines, you're going to be in churches, you're going to be in temples, you're going to be in groups, and you're going to be speaking the truth. Okay? Starting with home. Help, I'm being set up, but I'm ready. I am Sophie, and I love you all.